A spasm of fear locks tightly around your throat as you burst into tears. 1 minute you're happy and all is well. You think you've learned all about dealing with fear, but now sheer panic grips your chest, and the silence around you is filled with a high-pitched ringing in your ears. Dizzy and light-headed, you sit down. How could Asha abandon you like this? Doesn't she care about what's going to happen? You don't even know where you are. And now you'll never be able to reach Matthew in time. Lying on your side with your head on your arm, you can't stop crying. The pain in your throat worsens as you struggle to breathe. All is lost. Even if you could find your way, the base is in lockdown. How would you get in? Imagining Matthew, trapped in unconsciousness and forced to survive on life support, you cry until there are no tears left to cry. At last, you fall into a helpless, exhausted sleep, and later wake to a nagging pain in your hip. At first, you think you're lying on a stone, but soon you realize it's something in your pocket. You roll onto your back and dig out the strange object that Admiral Birdie had slipped into your hand in the cafeteria. Lying on your back and holding the object with outstretched arms, you're shocked to see it is quite old and made of 24-karat gold. It is round and flat, about 3 inches in diameter, and looks similar to a pocket watch. It is beautifully carved, with emerald-cut diamond studs embedded all around its outer edge. Strangely, there doesn't seem to be any way to open it, nor even a hairline crevice indicating that it can be opened. The lid looks like a map of the Earth, but the shapes of the continents look completely unfamiliar, until you realize the map is from the perspective of the North Pole, which is represented by crushed diamonds at the center. You sit and stare for a few minutes. You have never seen all of the continents from this perspective, and it seems a much more logical way to view a map of the world. The only missing continent is Antarctica, but whoever visited Antarctica? You wonder why Admiral Birdie had given this to you. It's obviously a treasured possession, maybe even a priceless antique. Yet he was adamant that it was to be yours. It is so thick, you feel there has to be something inside, but there's no way to open it. Why would the old man have given you something so precious and rare if it didn't have a purpose? Looking up, you see a massive, yacht-like ship with 3 masts and a square rig sailing down the river. You jump to your feet, stuff the object in your pocket, grab the flask, and sling it over your shoulder as you run down the path, hoping to reach the dock in time. Running with far more ease than you could ever have imagined possible, you bound down the hill toward the river. To your surprise, when you arrive at the dock, you aren't even the slightest bit out of breath. You sit on a bench near the dock and get your bearings. The climate is somewhat balmy, but not too hot or sunny. It feels perfect. The river must be 10 miles wide, and though it's obviously very deep, you can see all of the fish and other creatures swimming below with perfect clarity. As you take it all in, you realize that, oddly, there isn't a single fishing boat, nor are there fishermen for that matter. All of this makes you wonder if it's really possible to live without money, as Asha had suggested. On one hand, the concept is inconceivable. How could a world exist without money? But you saw it before in your game lifetimes as a Vedras, and now everywhere you look, you see all manner of fruits and vegetables growing in abundance. There are banana, avocado, papaya, and mango trees, bushes laden with berries and fruits, and all kinds of vegetables growing freely, rather than in structured farmed rows. And just like within the Vedras communities, there are no fences, no farms, and no private property keep out signs. Then, much to your surprise, you hear singing. You look toward the sound and see the ship coming into view as it passes a large island in the middle of the river. It sounds as if thousands of people are singing together as one phenomenal chorus, their voices echoing from bank to bank, filling up the entire universe with their hauntingly beautiful song and intricate harmonies. When the adults stop singing, the children begin, and it sounds like a choir of angels. With perfect grace, the ship pulls up to the dock. A gangplank is lowered and smoothly dropped into place with a soft hydraulic whoosh. High above, a smiling middle-aged man with curly gray hair waves to you from the top deck, encouraging you to come on board. You smile and wave back as you step onto the walkway and climb onto the ship. Once on board, a man who seems to be the captain approaches you and says something in a language you can't understand. "Do you speak English?" you say hopefully.
"English? No,"
he says, smiling and shaking his head. Then he yells to a nearby man with pure white, thick, wavy hair. Due to the color of his hair, you assume the man to be quite a bit older. But as he turns around, you see he is extremely fit. His eyes are bright, his skin luminous, and he appears to be only in his early to mid-30s.
"English! English! Over here!"
the captain yells to the man, as if over and here were the only other words he had ever mastered. The man called English laughs and smiles as he walks over to you.
"Hello,"
he says warmly.
"I'm Richard. As you may have guessed, I happen to speak English, which is where my extra name came from. You can call me whatever name you prefer."
The captain then says something in his native tongue, and Richard says,
"The captain is wondering where you're headed."
"Oh," you say, taken aback. "I need to go to Utah, but I'm not really sure exactly where I am, so I don't know when I should get off the ship."
"That's all right,"
says Richard with a peculiar expression, as if he has something to say but doesn't quite know how to tell you.
"We'll figure out the best place."
Then, changing the subject slightly, he says,
"Would you like a tour of the ship?"
There's nothing you can do to get back to Matthew any sooner, but you're still worried. "Yes, but you will make sure I get off at the right stop for Utah?"
"Of course,"
says the man kindly. You relax a bit as you stroll along. There are several hundred people on board, and you have an awkward moment when you realize just how much you stand out in the crowd. While everyone on the ship is wearing simple white clothing, everything from pants and tunics to flowing dresses and robes. Here you are in olive green military cargo pants, a long-sleeved gray knit shirt, and army-issue boots. But you quickly realize you needn't worry. Every person you see goes out of their way to be kind and thoughtful. You are struck by how happy and healthy everyone appears to be, and they all have such beautiful complexions, it's difficult to tell their age. Richard turns to you and says,
"Earlier you told me you didn't know how to get to where you're going. Have you thought of using that compass tucked into your pocket?"
Your shirt is draped loosely over your pants, and you know it's impossible to see the object. "How can you tell what's in my pocket?" you say, surprised. "How do you even know it's a compass? I don't even know what it is."
"I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable,"
says the man apologetically.
For us, here in this place, it's as easy to see what's in your pocket as it is to recognize the color of your eyes. I wouldn't have mentioned it except I think it will help you on your journey.
You pull the treasured object out of your pocket. I don't know how to use it. I think I'm supposed to open it, but I don't know how, you say, chewing on your lower lip as you concentrate.
Does it not have a code?
Says Richard. You shake your head. I don't know. The man who gave it to me didn't say anything about a code.
Are you talking about Admiral Birdie?
Shaking your head in astonishment, you say, Yes. How did you know?
You were thinking loudly, he says, smiling.
I have no idea why he even gave it to me.
I suspect he believed you would have more use for it than he would.
You try to remember something, anything that might be a clue. You go over and over in your mind everything you can remember the old man saying to you. Nothing makes sense. Finally, you close your eyes and think, if I knew the answer, what would it be? Then you remember something so obvious you suspect it won't work. But since you can think of nothing else, you say, minus 74, 0.85, 16, 16, minus 102, 0.59, 033, 0. The top of the compass, with the map of Earth, softly clicks open gently in a sliding horizontal motion, revealing a second Earth. But this is a living 3D holographic image. In the center is the inner North Pole, but it isn't icy. It's tropical, with an ocean portal that clearly flows into the ocean at the point that would be Earth's North Pole. The holographic map shows every portal and tunnel that connects the two Earths. Carved around the outer edges of the disk are the words, as above, so below. As you continue staring at this holographic inner Earth, you see a brightly glowing reddish sun suspended in midair. Clouds are moving in the holographic sky, and you can clearly see mountains, oceans, forests, rivers, rolling hills, beaches, and plains. To your surprise, all you have to do is focus on a particular area, and instantly you can see the area close up, hovering right before your eyes. You discover this feature quite accidentally when you look at a mountain while at the same time wondering what it would be like at the top. The image instantly zooms into a field covered with wildflowers. As you wonder what the flowers are like, the image zooms in even closer, and you experience a close-up of the flowers, fragrance and all. You discover you can see all the way down to their subatomic level. As you pull your attention back, the flower zooms out until it's a few feet away. You then turn your gaze slightly to the left and realize you can see the view from the top of the mountain, as if you are standing there in person, looking out over the ocean. Even a slight breeze ruffles your hair. Ancient trees, 50 to 100 feet in diameter, lead down to rolling green hills with a sandy beach below extending into the clearest blue ocean you've ever seen. Entranced, you focus on the water, and though you don't move physically, you feel as if you are in the midst of the holographic image, swimming with the sea turtles as they surf the gentle waves. You can feel the exact temperature of the air and the water, as if you are actually there. Astonished, you look up at Richard and say, "This is the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life. Is this really what it's like here?"
"Yes," says Richard, smiling warmly.
Following his directions, you see that the holographic Earth is an exact duplicate of planet Earth. At least the continents are laid out in the same way, but up close nothing looks familiar. With a sigh, you say, "I don't understand how this compass works. How will it get me back to where I need to go? I can see everything on this map, even something as small as a flower, but I don't see planes or buses or trains or cars." A bemused look crosses Richard's face.
"You still really don't understand where you are, do you?"
"What do you mean? I'm right here on the ship standing next to you." Then a wave of shock passes over your face as an unsettling memory crosses your mind. "Oh, I forgot! All transportation is down because of the terrorists." "Well, what's the closest you can get me to Utah? I'm just in a really big hurry. There's an emergency and I have to get back," you say nervously.
"My dear," says Richard kindly, "you are no longer on Earth's surface."
"What do you mean?" you say, looking around. "I see sunlight. I see the sky and grass and trees and the river. I just came from being in an underground cavern and I can tell the difference."
"No, that's not what I mean," says Richard patiently. "You're not on Earth, at least not the Earth that you know. Some people call this the inner Earth, but it's actually a parallel world. The Earth you know is a duplicate of this world."
You stare at him, puzzled.
"Do you understand that Earth is a virtual reality?"
he says good-naturedly. You nod.
"Well, think of it this way. What you see here is the Earth, just as the creator of the game originally imagined it."
Then Richard points to the engraved words and says,
"As above, so below" means that the inner Earth is a match to your Earth. The pristine beauty you see here is what Earth was like in the very beginning, and it is what your Earth can return to because the inner Earth is a living blueprint.
"Do you call this inner Earth because it's inside Earth?" you ask.
No, we are not inside Earth. Inner Earth refers to the blueprint you carry within you. What you see here,
says Richard with a sweeping gesture,
is not just an other-dimensional reality. It's embedded in your DNA, and the DNA of every person playing the game. And that's why Earth's original blueprint can never be lost. That's why human beings will always long for what you see here. Not just the untouched magnificence of this place, but also our way of life. People living in harmony with each other and with nature. Our two worlds are sort of like identical twins separated at birth. One baby is raised by loving parents, the other is raised in a dysfunctional family. But as they grow up separately, they both feel something or someone is missing until they are ultimately reunited.
"Well, having a blueprint in our DNA doesn't seem to be doing us any good," you say glumly. Richard holds out his hand and says politely,
"May I hold your compass for a moment?"
You nod and place the compass in the palm of his hand. Richard then holds the outer edges of the compass with the golden side up and the holographic side down.
You see how both Earths have sort of a belly button at the center? What you would call the North Pole is in fact right in the center of your world.
"No, you don't understand," you say. "That is the farthest north you can go."
Well, that's only because you've been taught that Earth is a sphere, and the really cold parts are the farthest north and the farthest south.
"What do you mean?" Earth is round. It is a sphere. Everybody knows that.
You've been shown pictures and you've been told what to see and believe. I know this will be hard to grasp, but even though the universe is filled with spheres, Earth is not one of them,
says Richard plainly. Oh my God, I have no idea what you're talking about. You clearly don't know the facts. Maybe it's something you don't know about here, you say, feeling both frustrated and a bit sorry for Richard, since he is obviously quite ignorant. Listen, wherever we are, I just need to get back to Utah. Can you help me do that?
Yes, of course,
says Richard warmly.
Where exactly do you need to go?
I don't really know the exact location, you say hopelessly. It's an underground military base somewhere in the Utah desert.
Do you know what it looks like outside or inside?
I've been inside, but I don't know what it looks like outside.
If you have a clear picture in your mind, we have the technology to transport you any place in the universe.
You mean I can go from here directly into the base? You say, completely stunned.
Yes.
Well, then where do I need to go to get access to your transportation?
I'm headed there, actually. It's right here,
he says, pointing to the holographic map. Then, using his mind, he causes the compass to zoom in.
It's called the portal. I'll take you there if you'd like.
You sigh with relief. Oh, thank you. Yes, please. As you look at the holographic map, you suddenly think of Admiral Birdie and how adamantly he kept telling you to go to the library. I know this is an odd question, but do you have any libraries here?
Richard laughs and says, the portal is the largest library in the universe.
Really? You say, thinking it didn't look very large.
It looks small because you're looking at the entrance. The portal has underground storage that spans over 456 square miles. It holds living records of everything that has ever occurred anywhere in the universe, throughout time, space, in all dimensions, parallel worlds, and all realities. Any question you may have, the portal will show you what truly happened, down to the smallest detail. Even the thoughts, feelings, and true motives of those involved. But more importantly, it is literally a portal to anywhere in the universe, including Earth. We call it Think and Go, says Richard, smiling. You smile as you remember Asha using that term. You mean all I have to do is go to your library, think about where I want to go, and I'll just show up there? Yes. There are special chairs, somewhat like the Montauk chair, but infinitely more advanced.
Though you don't want to take your eyes off of the holographic inner Earth, you want the compass to be safe. As if reading your mind, Richard says, use the same code to close the compass whenever you're ready. You can open and close the compass telepathically or out loud. You don't fully trust that you have any telepathic abilities, so you say the code aloud and the compass closes silently. You stare at it for a moment and say, why do you call this a compass? It seems more like a map to me. I mean, an incredible holographic map, but still a map. Didn't you notice that your thoughts could take you anywhere you wanted to go and show you anything you wanted to see? Asks Richard. Well, yes, but it doesn't tell me how to get there, you say. It would tell you if you asked, says Richard. Oh, you mean it's like a GPS, except this compass is a GPS times infinity? You say, grinning. Okay, I have one more question for you. Where is Antarctica? Why don't you ask that question when you're at the portal?
You'll be able to see everything for yourself,
says Richard encouragingly.
Come with me. We'll be docking soon.
When you disembark, Richard says,
From here on, we'll take the hovercraft. It's just a 5-minute walk. It will take about an hour to get to the portal, so feel free to pick some fruit or anything you'd like before we get on board.
For some reason, I'm not really very hungry, you say.
That's normal,
says Richard, though he doesn't explain any further. As you walk, you see bright green rolling hills dotted with colorful gardens. There are plenty of people walking or riding horses, but there is an odd lack of homes or businesses, and no one seems to be doing work of any kind. Where are all the houses? You ask curiously. Richard smiles and says,
Look again, you'll see.
As you look more closely, you realize everything is built underground, with vegetable gardens on the rooftops, and colorful flower gardens in front of each house. And because there are no fences, only windows and doors facing out into the world, all of the buildings blend flawlessly into the hillsides. Are all of your homes built into hillsides? You inquire.
No, there are many options, but whatever we do, whether it's a building, a road, or a pathway, we tread lightly. We live in harmony with nature,
says Richard warmly. So do you mainly sail and use hovercraft to get around? You say.
Most people here have the ability to teleport or bilocate. Some use hovercrafts, but it's more for our own enjoyment, just like sailing or horseback riding. But for those of us who don't teleport and need to go a long distance, we have underground trains that move through tubes, using only electromagnetic energy. We can be anywhere in less than an hour. Here we are, says Richard, as you step onto a platform that blends so perfectly and naturally with its surroundings, you never would have noticed it. This is beautiful, the way it blends in. But don't you have a hard time finding things? Richard smiles and pulls a compass very much like your own out of his pocket. Not at all. We can simply think of where we want to go, and the compass communicates telepathically.
Do you mean it talks into your mind, you say?
It really depends on the person receiving the communication. Some people hear words, others see images. Some people receive telepathic communications through their feelings. And sometimes it's a combination. Personally, I feel the communication. So when we were walking along, I suddenly felt like turning left and then right, and then I had the feeling to walk up the stairs.
That's incredible, you say enthusiastically.
You can use your compass the same way. You just have to trust your feelings, says Richard.
You're not sure if you're quite at that level of trusting, so you're happy when you see a thin golden frame gliding along the soft hills. As it gets closer, you notice a large blue crystalline sphere, radiant with etheric energy protruding from beneath. Two parts splay outward away from each other behind the sphere and meet at a point up front, like two equal halves of a wishbone. Atop the sphere, hovering always just a few feet above the ground, is a long platform with a polished wooden floor that seems to glow a light-colored amber. And this is where you and Richard stand with the other passengers, watching as hills and grass morph into a placid ocean waterfront stretching far into the distance, with just a sliver of a beach. From a distance, you silently pass houses that are round and translucent, and must have been created with some very advanced form of technology. From the outside, you can see through the structures, so they are barely noticeable and blend perfectly into their environment. But Richard assures you that the inhabitants have complete privacy. Small, white, furry creatures with big black eyes and large ears stare at you as they chew on strands of grass, their eyes following the craft as it passes for a moment over a small channel. You follow the running water through a valley and then on into a massive cavern capable of containing a small city composed of crystalline rocks and gemstones. Light passes through carved crystalline archways rising hundreds of feet high, causing rainbow colors to sparkle throughout the interior and across a massive healing temple built with precious jewels, crystals, and gold. As you pass through to the other side of the cavern, the earth turns a tender green, like the grass of early spring, and brilliant flowers spiraling out of it. Luminous and colorful, the flowers burst from curling vines low to the ground. But you notice that as the wind blows, they stand up to dance gracefully, as if they are dancing just for your enjoyment. Small crystalline bugs dart from flower to flower, sometimes rising in sparkling diamond waves with the rolling of the wind, and then lightly splashing back down into the curls of plant life, where they hide beneath the petals of the flowers. Then the wind picks up again, and they all rise together in a crystalline cloud, this time lighting up all at once and shooting out a brilliant display of red, blue, and green. Accompanied by a loud "bzzzt," the lights disappear with the loud sound that came with them. The hovercraft moves gracefully up a steep incline, then down the other side of the hill, where it stops to pause at the edge of a multicolored forest. Then suddenly, a barely noticeable density begins to fill the air. And though there is still blue sky and clear air, an unseen world seems to be emerging directly in front of you, as if it had been there the whole time and you just hadn't seen it, but now you do. Lots of little lights dancing all around, or maybe it's just a feeling and you're seeing them in your mind's eye as an overlay atop the scenery surrounding you. At your stop, you and Richard step onto a broad pathway as the craft silently moves along toward its next destination. Sunlight filters down through immense trees with leaves in every conceivable shade of green, yellow, orange, and red. The trees are spaced a good distance apart, and you can see a nearby field bathed in sunshine and filled with the most superbly colored flowers. Many of the flowers are in full bloom, and although you're familiar with some of them, the vast majority you've never seen before. Everything seems to exhale pure, life-giving energy. "Do you have any military or police?" you ask. Richard shakes his head. "Aren't there any bad people here?"
There is no dishonesty. Remember how easily I could see that compass in your pocket? Everyone here is telepathic, so there's no sense in lying and no need for laws. No one takes more than they need, and everyone shares. There's plenty of space for everyone. Every view is beautiful, so you simply need to decide what you like best. There's no winter here, and though our sun is dimmer than the one you see on the surface, it shines all the time. So fruits and vegetables are constantly growing and available to all. We barter with each other, so there's no need for money. Children are educated differently. They grow up in happy, loving families, and they have the freedom to be themselves.
Looking at Richard, you try to understand how all of this could be possible.
Your world has been complicated, and you've been educated to believe that you have no choice but to obey the laws, pay for property, pay for housing and food. But if you look at nature, it carries the blueprint of what your world is meant to be like. In nature, no animals possess property. They're not stressed out or warring with each other. They don't take control of fruits and vegetables or hoard them while others starve. There's a natural balance, and it's always there as a reminder for anyone willing to pay attention.
Well, what about people from Earth invading you? Don't you need a military presence to stop them, or has no one ever tried? You ask.
Oh, they've tried. But there are energetic barriers created with technology far beyond what anyone knows on the surface. This is also a different dimension from your third-dimensional reality. Our technology allows us to move back and forth instantly. But if you had come here instantly rather than gradually acclimating to this dimension, you would not have survived the sudden change.
As Richard speaks, the forest path opens into a meadow with lush grass, flower gardens, and tall, graceful shade trees amidst circular clearings with benches, tables, and chairs set up for both privacy and small gatherings.
Here we are,
says Richard, beaming.
Welcome to the portal.